It starts with a single study that changed how people look at olive oil. In 2010, the UC Davis Olive Center tested 186 supermarket samples in California. The result was blunt. 73% of imported oils labeled extra virgin failed international standards. Not borderline, failed. And when the study was repeated, the pattern held. Investigative journalist Tom Mueller later expanded the picture in Extra Virginity, documenting how parts of the global olive oil trade are tied to organized fraud networks in Italy, sometimes referred to as the agromafia, with food fraud estimated in the billions annually. From there, the methods are surprisingly simple. Some oils are diluted with cheaper refined oils, like sunflower or soybean. Others are corrected with coloring agents, like chlorophyll and beta-carotene to fake freshness. And in many cases, lower-grade oils are chemically treated, deodorized, and relabeled as extra virgin. So let's talk about specific brands. I'm going to go through all 11 olive brands that you should stop buying, starting with the most famous ones. And then I'll show you the 4 that are actually clean. Ready? Let's go. Number 11. Pompeian. Dominating grocery carts across the country, this bottle has quietly become America's default olive oil, backed by sheer volume, not verified quality. According to retail data from Instacart, it consistently ranks as the top-selling olive oil in the US. That kind of reach should signal trust. Instead, it raises eyebrows. Independent testing from UC Davis Olive Center found samples that failed to meet extra virgin standards, meaning the oil. What's labeled extra virgin may not actually behave like it. Now layer in the branding. Words like fresh, pure, and authentic are splashed across packaging, paired with pastoral imagery of olive groves and old-world presses. But large-scale sourcing often means blending oils from multiple regions, harvested at different times, then processed for uniformity, not freshness. None of this makes it toxic. It just makes it underwhelming. For the same price, there are options with traceable harvest dates, tighter quality control, and higher polyphenol levels. That's where the real value lives. Number 10. Bertolli. A legacy name and a picturesque label can carry a lot of weight, but olive oil isn't judged by storytelling. It's judged by what's in the bottle. Over the past decade, large-scale investigations into the European olive oil trade have uncovered a pattern, blending lower-grade oils, long storage times, and supply chains that stretch across multiple countries before bottling. That matters because freshness and origin are everything. When oil is sourced from different regions and harvests, consistency replaces quality, and that's where Bertolli starts to lose its edge. Despite the Italian branding, much of what reaches US shelves is mass-produced, blended, and processed, far from the small batch image it sells. There's also the time factor. Olive oil is highly perishable, and without a clearly stated harvest date, you're guessing how long it's been sitting in tanks or on shelves. With Bertolli, that transparency is often missing. None of this is illegal. It's just uninspiring. Flat flavor, muted aroma, and a product built for scale, not quality. At $10 a bottle, you're not saving money, you're just lowering the standard. Number 9. Filippo Berio. This is the kind of bottle you see everywhere, from Walmart to Target to Kroger. When a product is that ubiquitous, it starts to feel like the default. That's exactly the point. But scale has a trade-off. Independent testing has repeatedly flagged Filippo Berio for samples that didn't consistently meet extra virgin standards, meaning issues with oxidation, aging, or blending lower-grade oils into the mix. Extra virgin isn't just a label, it's a strict chemical and sensory benchmark. Miss it, and you're no longer getting what you paid for. Now zoom out. The 3 best-selling olive oils in the US, including Filippo Berio, have all faced similar scrutiny. That's not bad luck. That's industrial scaling meeting loose enforcement. Sitting in that $10 to $15 range, it looks like a solid mid-tier pick. But the cost is propped up by marketing, not measurable freshness. No harvest date, blended sourcing, and a taste that lands dull instead of lively. This isn't premium olive oil. It's a commodity dressed up as tradition. Number 8. Calavita. It is widely found in upscale grocery stores including Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and specialty food shops. At roughly $12 to $18 a bottle, it sits a step above the budget oils, quietly suggesting that a higher price tag equals higher purity. That assumption does a lot of heavy lifting. In reality, multiple independent analyses have pointed to inconsistent extra virgin classification across samples, meaning quality can vary from batch to batch rather than holding a steady premium standard. For a product labeled extra virgin, that inconsistency is exactly the problem. It should be the most stable, tightly controlled category in the oil world. Calavita also operates in a market where US standards are less stringent than European enforcement frameworks, allowing broader flexibility in sourcing and blending. That often translates into oils drawn from different regions and harvests, optimized for supply consistency rather than peak freshness. So while the packaging signals refinement and the price suggests upgrade, what's inside doesn't always reflect either. It's less a leap in quality and more a carefully marketed middle ground. Number 7. Star Olive Oil. A bottle designed for convenience rarely tells you how complicated the contents actually are. It looks simple on purpose. Familiar branding, clean label, nothing that raises questions at first glance. But olive oil at scale is rarely simple. When production shifts into massive volumes, the rules of freshly pressed within hours start competing with logistics. Storage time increases. Oils are pooled from different regions. Blending becomes the norm, not the exception. That consistency you see on the shelf often comes from standardization, not craftsmanship. Star sits right inside that industrial reality. It's built for volume distribution across major retail chains, which means the priority is keeping supply steady year-round, not preserving the character of a single harvest. In independent discussions around olive oil quality, this category of mass-produced oils often shows chemical and sensory profiles closer to refined or blended products than true early harvest extra virgin. That gap matters because freshness isn't just a taste detail. It defines whether the oil still carries its natural antioxidants and complexity. What reaches the table is consistent, predictable, and shelf-stable. But olive oil was never meant to be any of those things. Number 6. Carapelli. Founded in 1893, this brand leans heavily on heritage. Gold foil labels, Tuscan storytelling, and the promise of old-world purity. Truth of the matter, heritage doesn't guarantee what's inside the bottle. In the wake of Operation Golden Oil, Italian authorities uncovered thousands of tons of misrepresented olive oil moving through complex supply chains. Some shipments labeled as Italian extra virgin were traced back to oils originating in Spain, Morocco, and Tunisia, later blended and rebranded for export. Carapelli was linked to broader supply networks operating within that scrutinized ecosystem. The issue wasn't just geography, it was classification. Oils failing extra virgin standards were, in some cases, still marketed under that label after processing and blending. That matters because extra virgin is not a marketing term. It's a chemical and sensory threshold. Once that threshold is crossed, the oil loses its defining traits. So even when the branding whispers tradition, the supply chain tells a more complicated story. Number 5. Newman's Own. Few brands in America carry the same emotional weight as this one. Film legacy, charitable giving, and the feeling that every purchase is doing something good. That story, however, doesn't automatically travel from pasta sauce to olive oil. Newman's Own built its reputation on transparency in many categories, but its olive oil sits in a far more complicated space. The product is sourced from overseas suppliers, a common practice in the global olive oil trade, yet detailed third-party purity verification for its extra virgin claims is not consistently published in the way stricter certification programs require. That gap matters because olive oil is one of the most frequently adulterated food products in the world, according to multiple industry audits and international trade reports. Without independent, regularly disclosed testing data, consumers are left relying on brand reputation rather than measurable quality markers like peroxide values, free acidity, or sensory panel validation. And this is where perception gets tricky. The charity model builds trust in the brand's mission, but that trust doesn't automatically extend to a chemically sensitive agricultural product. Number 4. Great value from Walmart. First, Walmart is the #1 grocery retailer in America, reaching more households than any other store. That scale is exactly why its private label oils, including Great Value, are built for efficiency above all else. When a product has to sit on millions of shelves at once, consistency and cost control become the priority, not harvest precision or flavor depth. But extra virgin olive oil is a fragile product. It depends on timing. Olives need to be picked at peak ripeness, pressed within hours, and protected from heat, light, and oxygen from day one. Every delay in that chain quietly strips away antioxidants and character. At ultra-low price points, that level of care becomes difficult to sustain. Large volume blending and long storage cycles are common ways to keep supply steady, which is why industry-wide quality audits often find the highest rates of labeling inconsistencies in entry-level store brands. So the bottle may still say extra virgin, but the reality is shaped by logistics, not freshness. What ends up on the shelf is designed to move fast and stay stable, not to taste alive. Number 3. Kirkland Signature from Costco. A warehouse giant built on trust and bulk savings doesn't usually raise eyebrows, but olive oil plays by a different set of rules. Costco has turned its private label, Kirkland Signature, into a household staple across millions of kitchens. The reputation is strong enough that most shoppers assume every product under that name has already been vetted to the highest standard. But olive oil is a fragile exception. In independent testing, Kirkland Signature Extra Virgin Olive Oil failed to consistently meet extra virgin classification standards, meaning sensory and chemical markers didn't always align with the label. That matters because extra virgin isn't marketing. It's a strict benchmark for freshness, acidity, and purity. To its credit, sourcing adjustments have been made since those findings. Still, current bottles do not consistently carry widely recognized third-party certification that verifies ongoing compliance at the highest grade. And that's the tension. When a brand moves this much volume, even small quality drifts scale into millions of bottles. The name inspires confidence, but the verification doesn't always keep pace with the promise. Number 2. Aldi Specially Selected Olive Oil. Walk through almost any fast-growing discount grocery chain and you'll see it. Sleek packaging, premium labels, and a quiet promise that this is the upgraded version of a store brand experience. Aldi has scaled to over 2,300 US locations, and its specially selected line is designed to feel like a step above standard private label goods. The branding does its job well. Minimalist design, European styling, and words that hint at quality without actually proving it. But premium tier inside a store system is not the same thing as independent certification. Aldi Specially Selected refers to an internal grading system, not a verified external standard for extra virgin purity. That distinction matters in a category where authenticity is defined by strict chemical and sensory benchmarks, not packaging hierarchy. Independent industry audits have repeatedly shown that olive oil is one of the most frequently misrepresented food products globally, especially in large-volume private label supply chains, where blending and long storage cycles are common. So while the bottle signals refinement, the lack of transparent third-party verification leaves a gap between perception and proof. Number 1. Whole Foods 365 Olive Oil. It's the kind of bottle you reach for when everything around it feels like it's already been carefully vetted. Soft lighting, natural branding, and a store reputation built on clean living do a lot of psychological work before the oil is even opened. Whole Foods Market has built that trust over decades, and its private label, 365 by Whole Foods Market, sits right in the middle of that promise, quietly assumed to meet stricter standards simply because of where it's sold. But olive oil doesn't care about store philosophy. It responds to harvest timing, storage conditions, and chemical stability. In independent quality evaluations across the category, Private label oils like this have shown inconsistency in extra virgin classification, with variations in oxidation markers and sensory quality that suggest differences between batches rather than tightly controlled production. That matters because true extra virgin isn't flexible. It either meets the threshold or it doesn't. What's often missing is consistent, verifiable third-party certification for every batch, the kind that locks in standards beyond branding or store reputation. The real risk isn't that it's bad, it's that it feels pre-approved when it isn't consistently proven. 11 bottles exposed. And yes, some of them probably live in your kitchen right now. But it's not all bad news. A few brands actually respect the craft, verify the oil, and deliver real extra virgin. Here are the 4 worth your trust. Number 1. California Olive Ranch. It didn't become the most awarded American olive oil by accident. It's regularly cited in independent tastings and food rankings for consistency, and it's one of the few large-scale U.S. producers that publicly emphasizes traceability and batch testing rather than vague heritage storytelling. That alone puts it in a different lane from most supermarket oils. But the real edge is structural. The olives are grown and pressed in California, which removes the multi-country blending pipeline that dominates much of the global olive oil trade. That matters because a large portion of global olive oil fraud cases documented in industry reports stem from imported mixed-origin oils being relabeled after shipment. What you get instead is control over the full process, harvest timing, milling speed, and storage, without the lag that quietly degrades quality in transit-heavy systems. Retail pricing typically sits around the low to mid-teens for a standard 750 milliliter bottle, depending on line and retailer, keeping it in that rare zone where verified quality doesn't drift into luxury pricing. Number 2. Cobram Estate. Built on speed, precision, and transparency, this is the kind of olive oil that treats freshness like a non-negotiable rule, not a marketing slogan. Cobram Estate has earned consistent recognition in independent tastings, including recommendations from Wirecutter, where rigorous blind testing is used to separate genuine extra virgin quality from marketing noise. That matters in a category where labels often say more than the liquid inside. The production model is where things tighten up. Olives are harvested and cold-pressed within hours, a critical window that preserves polyphenols and prevents early oxidation. That speed isn't common in mass-market supply chains, where delays can stretch freshness thin before bottling even begins. Certification adds another layer. Cobram Estate is independently verified by the California Olive Oil Council, a respected benchmark for extra virgin standards in the U.S., and carries U.S. Olive Oil Association grading compliance for quality consistency. One of its most telling details is printed right on the bottle, a clear harvest date. That single line cuts through guesswork and replaces it with accountability. Widely available at retailers like Whole Foods Market and online platforms, it sits around the $14 to $22 range, reflecting real production standards rather than branding inflation. This is olive oil built on timestamps, not storytelling. Number 3. Bragg Organic Extra Virgin Olive. Bragg has built its reputation on purity standards long before olive oil entered the conversation. Best known for its apple cider vinegar, the brand extends that same strict sourcing approach into its extra virgin olive oil. The product is certified USDA organic and non-GMO project verified, meaning the olives are grown without synthetic pesticides, herbicides, or genetically modified inputs. That certification isn't cosmetic. It requires documented farming practices and regular audits. Beyond farming, transparency is a key signal. Origin labeling is clearly disclosed, and the oil is positioned within the organic supply chain rather than blended through multi-country bulk systems that dominate much of the industry. In a category where adulteration and dilution have been repeatedly documented in trade reports, organic certification adds an extra barrier of accountability at the farm level before pressing even begins. Available across health-focused retailers and online shelves, it usually lands around $12 to $18. This is one of those rare cases where organic certification, transparent sourcing, and everyday affordability actually meet in the same bottle. Number 4. Cassandrinos. This one sits firmly in the second category. It's a small, family-run producer with a loyal following in the paleo and Whole30 communities, where ingredient transparency isn't optional. It's the entire point. The oil is single origin, sourced from one family farm in Greece rather than a multi-country blending system. That detail alone cuts out one of the biggest weak points in global olive oil supply chains: anonymity. No mixing across harvests, no shifting country origins, no diluted traceability. What makes it stand out further is verification. The brand publishes third-party lab testing results, giving visibility into key quality markers like acidity and purity. It's also certified Whole30 approved and aligned with paleo standards, which require strict ingredient integrity. In a market where olive oil fraud has been documented across bulk imports and relabeling systems, that level of openness matters. Before we close, there are 3 simple checks you can do at home tonight to see if your olive oil is real. First, the refrigerator test. Place your bottle in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Authentic extra virgin olive oil is rich in natural monounsaturated fats like oleic acid, which tend to cloud or partially solidify when chilled. If it stays perfectly clear and fully liquid, it may have been diluted with refined oils that don't behave the same way. Second, the smell test. Open the bottle and take a direct sniff. Real extra virgin should smell fresh, grassy, fruity, sometimes even peppery, like green herbs or cut stems. If it smells neutral, oily, or flat, that's a sign of heavy refinement or age. Third, the label test. Look for a harvest date, not just a best by date, a credible third-party certification seal, and a specific origin. Vague sourcing like product of Italy without detail is a red flag. Now you know what to avoid, and the few trusted brands worth buying instead. The pattern is hard to ignore. UC Davis testing found 73% of imported olive oils fail extra virgin standards. Major investigations in Italy exposed widespread fraud, and even bestsellers have shown inconsistencies in independent checks. With weak enforcement, the label isn't always the guarantee it should be. That's why what ends up in your kitchen matters more than what's printed on the bottle. Next up, we are going inside the seed oil industry. After that, your pantry won't look the same again.